Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sunday, October 8th. We're now starting our third week for this fall quarter. This is the beginning of chapter 11. As you see right now, we are on the home page of our Canvas course site, and at the moment it's showing the items that I have posted for chapter 10, because we still have one more day to submit some work if you haven't done it yet. But starting tomorrow, or actually more accurately, starting this evening, you will see that this will change to chapter 11. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what to expect for this week. We only use 1 week in this case for this chapter. And as you see also later, there will be a link to the week 3 module. So I can actually go here instead at the bottom and simply click on this to go to the module for this coming week. And you see that it's basically the same structure as before. We have the week 3 overview. You need to submit your attendance check-in just to make sure that you actually get into the site each week. We have this in there for that reason. Here are the lecture notes, and we'll go into that in a second. Here are the homework keys so you can actually overview what's how to solve some of these problems that we have assigned. By the way, these homework keys are all aligned to the static problems that come from your reading in your chapter, in your textbook, I mean. And those are all part of what you see in the class calendar. If you go to the syllabus, you'll see here the 4 problems assigned for chapter 11, 11-15, 11 meaning chapter 11, exercise 15, 20, 22, and 23, which are the ones that are assigned and the ones that you'll be fed in my accounting lab later. I can show you that now. I'm actually here at my accounting lab under the assignments, and for this week, chapter 11, homework, has those 4 problems that I just mentioned. Going back to the module, as you always, you already know how it is structured, but as you see, you also have some class participation postings or threads that you can actually use to post your one required posting. And again, I highly recommend that you do a lot more than just one. That's how you engage. That's how you learn the material much deeperly, much more deep than otherwise. And finally, you've got these links to your reading check and also to your homework. And those are the ones that you use actually to get your grade. So don't forget those. Now let's go into the lecture notes, and I already have gone into them here. I clicked on that previously, so you see here's the overview of that full lesson. In fact, I'm gonna have to go back. Hold on, give me a second. Here's the beginning of the lesson, and as you know, we're working with current liabilities. This lesson, or these lecture notes, focus on measuring and recording current liabilities in general. There's also a section here that deals with measuring and recording payroll-specific transactions, and then finally, it will be contingent liabilities. It's there are a few more topics in the chapter than these, but the focus that I'm using for these lecture notes are only on these most important topics for the chapter. As always, I include the learning objectives, and along with these, I offer you a set of links to videos that will give you the sort of the lecture for each of the topics. These complement, obviously, your reading of your textbook. And so I highly recommend that you actually go into these. Now, the chapter mainly, as I said before, deals with current liabilities. And in most cases, you'll be dealing with also how to calculate interest. And this is the one example that I'm using to illustrate how to do that. Again, it complements your textbook. So you can go here and sort of review how I have sort of shown certain aspects of each of the topics in your chapter. There's also the accounting part of it. So here's some what I call generic journal entries for current liabilities. You can go into that, and here's a little more on that, but in this case it will be about payroll. And so notice that I'm giving you sort of the formulas in addition to just the journal entries themselves. So you can actually review these at your leisure over the next few days. There's also a table that I provide here that will allow you to sort of overview all of the different tax rates and the limitations that you're going to be reading about in the chapter. And so come back to this after you read the chapter and make sure that you understand each of these items here. Now, in terms of actually recording liabilities, here's a good example of what I would do for one of those for some of those longer problems. They give you a set of transactions. Once you learn how to actually approach these, and then here's the answer that I provided for each of these items. I also give you in each case the support for some of these answers. So again, you can review this as you need, and then with respect to payroll, here's a little more on that topic. You will notice that again that there's something called limits or tax limits. It applies to Social Security, and it also applies to something called FUTA and SUTA. You find out later what that means. But at times, many students have issues with understanding how to apply tax limits. So this specific handout that you see on your screen at the moment will show you 3 scenarios as to how that apply to limits. And so if you review this, you should be able to understand how they apply for, in this case, Social Security. Here's another little handout that sort of shows you how to deal with employer taxes, which is not the same thing. That's the same thing as employee side taxes. Here's a little more on the same topic. Here's a worksheet that you may want to learn how to use to organize your calculations that then make it into the actual eventual journal entry for payroll and payroll taxes. Let's see. Moving on, there's one last topic in this lecture notes that deal with contingent liabilities. And this is pretty easy in terms of the accounting. You only have a debit to an expense account, in this case loss from a lawsuit, and then to a liability on the other side of that. So the accounting for contingent liability is pretty simple. What you learn here that's a little more important is the thinking process behind what you do. You may actually only disclose the contingent liability. You may do nothing, or you may actually book the full amount. So read about it, and as you go through the lesson, you can obviously always go back to the module and post your answers or your questions here in the discussion threads. And again, don't be shy. Make sure that you actually do that. Use these discussion threads to ask questions throughout the week. In terms of the answer keys, again, now that you've assuming that you go through all the reading and you will do all of the questions and answers, you should be ready to go into the homework themselves. And so when you're ready for that, you click on that link in the module. It will take you to this sheet that has many of the answer keys that relate to each of those items in the homework. Now, I link these resources for many more of the problems than are assigned. But you should actually use these answer keys that are underneath these links to review how the authors and partially how I solved these problems, and then go beyond what's assigned maybe to actually learn more and be more ready for not just the problems in the homework for this week, but also later in the exams. And so you review these, and then once you're ready to take the actual homework, you can go back here and obviously click on the homework 11 and get into my lab, and you'll see this again. And just to remind you again, if you actually want to solve 1115 and you already learned more or less how it was solved through the answer key review, but you may still need a little more work or a little more help, go here to question help and use the help me solve this, or the video in this, case, and that should give you another way to learn the same material. If you have any questions, as usual, go back to the discussion threads here, post your questions, and I'll be scanning and responding to these questions throughout the week. Normally 24 to 48 hours at the very most, but normally I'm much quicker than that. Enjoy your week. Take care. Bye-bye.